So interesting thing is now is the time to be really trying to focus on your fundamentals, really trying to get the basic movements down. And so we're going to go over a series of attacks that I like from the closed guard. It's a drill that I'm a huge fan of because not only does it help with understanding the basics, it has basic attacks as well as basic defenses in there. But also it's one of those drills that the more you do it, the more comfortable you feel with someone in your guard. And that is something that's really one of the harder things to get used to, especially when I remember when I first started training. It was really strange to me to try to keep another human being between my legs with my feet crossed. And especially those bigger partners that were able to kind of flatten me out and get on top of me. Trying to get someone back into my guard was something that I not necessarily disliked doing, but it was something that I had a really hard time with. And so with time and practice, everything comes forward, everything gets better. But we want to make sure that, like I said, we want to focus on our fundamentals during this time, and make it so that our strong fundamental game is something that can relate or transfer directly back into training when we're able to get back in. So yeah, that's the idea. And honestly, like you can focus on fundamentals anytime, but a lot of times the things that we learn, the drills that we do are best done with a partner, and that's actually what I wanted to talk about. So we're stuck in a quarantine right now. A lot of people do not have anyone else to drill with, whether it be a family member, a neighbor, whatever. It just doesn't work. We don't have somebody to train with, and we're stuck by ourselves. And I've said this to students many times: Jiu-Jitsu doesn't work if you're by yourself. But you can still mentally practice, and this is getting a little bit more into kind of the evolution of training. If you have a partner and someone that you're able to train with, or someone you're able to at least drill with, that is worlds better than not being able to do anything at all. But the next step is if you don't have anybody and you don't have a training dummy, literally like a dummy, not a person, but literally like a training dummy. If you don't have those things, your next best way to do it is to actually mentally rehearse stuff. And so when you mentally rehearse, it's not just going through the motions in your head. Okay, my arm, I grab their elbow, I pull it across my stomach. I grab the shoulder and pull it forward. Like, you're not just saying that in your head, you're actually trying to picture it, you're trying to feel it, you're trying to hear what it actually feels like the sliding of the mat, the sliding of your body on the mat, your opponent's body on the mat, the feel of the material, just imagining all these things and making that feeling, making that as vivid as possible, and whatever works for you. But we want to try to get it so that it almost feels like you actually have somebody there. There's been a lot of research done on this, on mental rehearsal, and it actually does work. I read like a study done a while back where they did like a group that actually practiced with a partner, and it wasn't, it was just some sort of sporting event. I don't remember. It wasn't jiu-jitsu specifically, but someone that was able to practice with a partner, someone that was, you had a control group that didn't do anything, and then you had a group that did mental rehearsal, and that was all they did, was all mental stuff. So you had regular training, no training, and then just mental rehearsal. And what they found was those that did regular training had the greatest amount of improvement. Those that did no training, strangely enough, didn't go anywhere, and some actually declined. And then you had those that actually did the mental training. And the funny thing is the mental training didn't get to the same point as the actual physical training itself, but it actually got really close, like surprisingly close. I don't remember the specific numbers, but I think it was like something between like a 10 and 20% difference, which is not big at all if you think about it. 20% with just using your mind is huge. That's an enormous way to or enormous difference from obviously doing nothing at all to at least some sort of rehearsal. So we want to, so as vivid as you can make it, and try to include as many senses as possible, meaning sight, touch, sound. Any of those, sight, touch, sound are pretty much the main ones that we have to worry about. Feel, as well as imagining what it feels like to actually to get your body moving in that motion, to actually have someone on top of you, to be on top of someone else, to be able to manipulate an arm. All these things are these things that you can mentally rehearse that doesn't seem like it's as good, which it isn't, but it definitely does help, and there is a big improvement there. So we want to, whatever tools we have available for us, we want to be able to use. And if your mind is the only tool that you have, that's all that you need. You're fine. There was I oftentimes had told my students in the past, and I stick by this to this day, your mind is your strongest weapon. It really is. There's certain physical limitations that everybody has, so there's certain things that certain people can do that other people cannot, and that's okay. But those other people that cannot do those moves, whether it be inverting or something crazy, where you're upside down or whatever, or it requires you to bring your foot up over your head, which a lot of people can't do straight away. Your mind, you can find a way around those things. You may not be able to do the exact same move or the exact same thing, but your mind can figure out a way to be able to get into that similar situation or similar way of doing it, where you don't need those physical attributes that a lot of people don't have. So it's all a matter of mental training, your mind being, like I said, your strongest weapon, your most valuable asset. So make sure you're using it. And that's pretty much what I have to say about that. We're going to get started. We're going to do a series of basic attacks and defenses from the guard. And as I said, this is one of my favorite. This is one of my favorite things to do. Favorite drill exercises to do, because, like I said, it really focuses on fundamentals and it focuses on both the offense and the defense. So this is a two-person drill that is really beneficial for both parties involved, because not only are you, one, setting up your attacks, but you're also, two, learning the defense or basic defense for a lot of for those attacks. So from here, we're going to start. We're going to take my opposite side hand is going to go underneath the same side hand, or excuse me, opposite side hand doesn't make any sense. My hand is going to go underneath same side arm, and I'm going to find my partner's elbow on the near side. From here, I grab a hold of the sleeve and I'm going to pull my partner forward and bring their elbow across my chest. I want their elbow to at least my midline, meaning even with my belly button, or even farther. From here, my opposite side hand comes to the shoulder here. Same side hand comes to the opposite shoulder. Same side foot goes to the hip or onto the floor, whichever you're more comfortable with. From here, I bring my leg straight up into the air, and now I'm going to pivot to my arm bar. So I pivot, drop my leg, swing my leg over, and now we have our first attack, which is an arm bar. From here, Chelsea's going to stack me a little bit. She's going to, you're doing fine. Drive into me here, and now she's going to pop this arm out. We do a little bit at a time. Whenever we do any sort of escapes, go ahead. Whenever we do any sort of escapes, we want to do it a little bit at a time. The big pull rarely works. Little baby pops will get you out of a lot of bad situations if you're able to generate the force needed to get your body part out. So whenever we drill this specific set of attacks, we always make sure we practice the popping out, pop, 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 a little bit at a time. From here, my partner's opposite side arm is still between my legs, so I'm going to go for an attack on that. I'm going to bridge, and this is just a habit of bridging up to kind of get to loosen up the arm and then get the arm into my pocket here. So I'm going into the pocket that's closest to my partner's legs. My hand is on my partner's wrist. From here, I'm going to open up my legs and I'm going to drive my legs over my partner's head in an plata position here. So I drive here. From right here, I just sit up for a second as if I'm going to finish. But my partner is going to resist, and she's going to bring her head back towards the ceiling, allowing me to roll back to her. Let's rotate a little bit here. So from here, normally Chelsea would bring her hands into the center here and square back up. For the sake of the drill, she's going to keep her arm out. And this is going to allow me to set up my next attack, which is my triangle. So, important detail here. My leg is across my partner's back. I have two options. I can either lift here, where I lift my hips up off the floor, or the second option is where I put my foot on the hip and I lift again. Either way, what I want to make sure I do is I lift my hips. This is an important detail of the triangle that a lot of people when they first start have a really hard time with. It's not just keeping my hips flat and crossing my feet across my partner's neck and shoulders here. What I want to do is I actually want to lift my hips. I want to bring my hips to my partner's neck. This is going to give you a lot more success with your triangle attacks, is bringing your hips to your partner's chest and neck versus letting your hips lay flat and not move, or flat, basically flat on the mat. So from here with my leg across the back, once again, remember, leg across the back or onto the hip. I drive my hips up towards the ceiling here, and now I'm going to bring my leg down, and now I cross my feet, and I allow my hips to drop back to the floor. From here, I'm going to bridge and bring my partner's arm across. So I bridge, bring my partner's arm across. From here, I reach up, I'm going to grab, my left hand is going to grab my right wrist, so I reach up, my left hand grabs my right ankle. From here, with my hand on the ankle, I do not want to let go here. I want to make sure my partner's posture is controlled the whole time. My foot then goes to the hip here, and I pivot, lining myself up with my triangle. Now, when I go to finish my triangle, I want my my right foot behind my left knee in where I have the triangle here. If you guys notice, Chelsea's arm is lined up with my chest here, so I'm in a good angle with my triangle. A lot of times when people do triangles, is they end up right here. We don't want to do that. We want to make sure we're practicing our good fundamentals and practice our good triangle position here with myself at an angle versus being north-south with my triangle choke. From here, what I'm going to do, I'm not going to finish. Like I said, two-person drill, so I'm going to lighten up a little bit. I'm going to take so when I close up my leg behind my foot here, I only do this for just a second. Because of the drill, I'm going to unlock my guard. And Chelsea's going to put both of her hands on my hips, and she's going to posture up. She wants to break open my legs and get her head towards the ceiling. That's as far as she needs to go. From here, my right hand, I still have her right arm between my legs. My right hand grabs a hold of her wrist, and now I'm going to put it in my pocket. Put it in the same side pocket. From here, I refer to this as going to Muscle Beach. I'm going to take my left hand, and I'm going to take this part of my hand, or the back side of my hand, and I want to go on the inside of Chelsea's thigh here. So I use this as like a pivot point. So I have my hand on the inside of her thigh here, and I still have my hand on the wrist of my cross grip on the wrist here. From here, I'm going to lift my hips and twist. So I lift my hips and I twist. I'm using that free hand. I use that to help me pivot. And now I went from the back of my hand being on the inside of her thigh here, I'm going to switch to what I refer to as Muscle Beach, where my hand is basically, I'm grabbing a hold of her leg here. So I have control of her leg here, and now I'm going to kick my legs straight, and then I'm going to roll over myself. The whole point of kicking my legs straight is to get my partner's center of gravity moving forward, which is going to make it easier for me to roll to the side. If I don't roll to this, or if I just try to roll to the side from right here, Chelsea's center of gravity is right below her hips. So if I just try to roll here, I'm not going to be able to get it. But if I move my partner's hips forward, or if I get, yes ma'am. Thank you. So if I get my partner to move forward here, getting my partner's center of gravity to move forward, then when I redirect over the top of me, it's going to be a lot easier. And you can get a lot bigger person with this plata sweep as long as you do it with motion. If we try to do it one step at a time, meaning 1, 2, 3, 4, it's gonna be a lot harder than if we just try to make it one continuous motion. So from here, I kick my legs straight as my partner's starting to move forward here. I roll here. I wind up in this way. I wind up sitting on my partner's shoulder with her hand between my legs here. I have my last attack of this series. I grab a hold of the wrist. I grab a hold of the knuckles. My my middle finger is going across their knuckles. I'm squeezing. I take a handful of hand here. From here, my bottom hand, I'm going to grab lower on the forearm. I don't want to grab right below the wrist because my finger can actually get in the way if I'm trying to wrist lock here. So what I do is I grab low. Now when I go down, I can go for my wrist lock. Now I'm not going to finish all the way, but when I go to finish this, I'm squeezing my hand around her fingers, and I'm trying to touch her fingers to her wrist, or excuse me, to her forearm here. So I'm actually it's almost like I'm trying to touch her fingertips to the top of my hand. So that's my last attack on this series. From here, I have a couple of different options as to how I want to get to the mounted position. The most basic way of doing this is my hand goes next to her face. This is going to make it harder for her to turn towards me as I'm starting to come up. My outside knee drives across the abdomen, and once my knee hits the floor, I then open up and kick the mat. So, sorry. So from here, let's go this way. From here, Chelsea's going to do her elbow knee escape. She turns onto her side, she hip escapes, she brings her bottom knee through. She wraps around my leg, she turns over to the other side, she brings her leg out, and she closes up her guard. And now it is her turn to do the series. Which way are you going to go, that way or that? Which arm are you going to attack?
That one.
Okay, so we're going to go this way. All right, so from here, Chelsea does her set. Grabbing the elbow, pulling it across the midline, hand on the hip, hand on the shoulder, opposite side hand on the shoulder, pulling you forward. There we go, good chop and swing. Don't cross. So from here, I'm going to take a little bit at a time. Pop, 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 pop. My hand comes out. Chelsea buries my hand into her pocket. She then swings over and sits up. Remember, she's only sitting up for a moment. Immediately, I posture and turn in. So I posture up and turn in. From here, Chelsea's going to put her foot either on my hip or across my back, and she lifts her hips up here. She crosses her feet. She uses her body weight to pull me forward. So she drops, there you go, pushing my arm across. She then grabs the opposite side foot, and she goes to pivot to find her ankle. So she grabs her ankle.
Can I grab underneath me or do I?
No, you can do that way. It's fine. Right there. Perfect. Good. Now she closes it up. Here. Just for a moment she closes it up. She then relaxes her grip. She crosses her ankles instead of putting her foot behind her knee. I then bring my hands to the hips and I posture up. You're supposed to let me break the guard. From here, she then takes opposite side hand, goes to my wrist. Opposite side hand goes to my wrist, puts it in her pocket. From here, she then dives her same side hand underneath and goes to Muscle Beach. She kicks her legs forward here, and now she rolls, good, and sits up on top. Scoot this one. I can't really see, so you're going to have to look. So, she's sitting on my shoulder here. She's got a solid control of my arm. She grabs a hold of my wrist, my forearm as she is. She then grabs a hold of my knuckles and squeezes, and then she tries to basically touch my fingertips to my forearm here. From here, she passes to mount. Good. And now I do my escape. So, from here, my hands are in. I practice my good fundamentals of keeping my elbows in nice and tight. I turn onto my side and I try to dig my elbow in right where her knee is next to my body here. So I turn onto my side, I try to dig my elbow in. All it is this and this. From here, I'm going to hip escape. Now when I hip escape, I have my first part of my frame on the thigh. My second frame comes in over the top here. I'm going to hip escape and I'm going to bring my bottom, let me just hip escape first. So I hip escape here. Now, my bottom, let's turn this way so they can see. So from here, my bottom leg comes through. So as my frames are up, I bring my bottom leg, I bring my knee to my chest. I then pull my foot out and come around. Now look, see, you can see I'm trying to trap her foot here. So I try to trap her foot just like so. This foot trap will make it difficult for her to advance her position just for a moment. It's not going to stop her completely. It's just going to slow her down for a moment. So I need to be quick with my movements. From here, I'm going to turn over to the other side. Let's pivot this way. I can't see it. Okay, so from here, I keep my foot behind her leg here. I pivot to the other side. I now bring my knee up to my chest, close up my guard, and we're back to square one. So the first time I did it, I went to this side first. Now I go to this side. And I go through the exact same sequence again. Where I grab the elbow, pull it across, and basically build my way through the series. So, what time is it? Thank you.
2:21.
Perfect. So that's it. That's our sequence for today. It's a really fundamental sequence. It works really well. I definitely recommend practicing it. It's one of those things. The more you practice, the better you get. And it's a really it's a fun, easy way to drill, and I really like it as far as warm-ups for upper belts or for a actual drilling / practice time for white belts and blue belts. For purple belts and brown belts, it's more used as like a warm-up. But for those lower belts, it's definitely used as not only a good warm-up, but also a good way to understand, to get them to start to understand the fundamental attacks from the guard, the basic armbar, triangle, and plata. And yeah, that's it for today. Thank you guys so much for coming. Reminder, our streams are, Jiu-Jitsu is Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. On Friday, we go at 2. And then on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at noon, Chelsea does our yoga stream. And yeah, if you would like to join us for the Jiu-Jitsu, the actual practice part of it, we do have a chat opened up, a Discord available. If you would like, just come a little early. We usually try to get on right around 4:55. And we try to start class right around 5:05. So we have that 10-minute window to help you set up your Discord chat if you would like, to help you set up a video conference so that I can actually watch you do the technique, and I can give you my feedback on what I think you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for coming today.
Thank you guys. Like Chris said, if you guys want to help support the channel and help support free jiu-jitsu and free yoga, please like and subscribe. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Heart and Soul BJJ. And just thank you so much for being here. We really, really appreciate it. We know that this is a time where you guys can't, nobody can really go out right now, and we really are honored and blessed to have such a wonderful community.
All right, thank you guys very much. Let's call it.
Thank you.
Oos.